There's a piece of footage filmed in a tank in Japan that I think about more than I'd like to admit. It's about 10 seconds long. In the frame there's a pale animal, maybe 3 feet of it visible, and at first you're not entirely sure what you're looking at, because it doesn't pass. The skin is a strange translucent pink, almost the color of the inside of your mouth, and you can see blood vessels through it. The body is soft and flabby, the way a fish looks when it's been out of the water too long, except this one is alive. And the head has this long, flat blade sticking out over the top of it, like someone attached a paper knife to the front of a fish, and underneath that blade there's a mouth, small and unremarkable, sitting in the shadow where a mouth should be. And then something moves toward it, and the animal's face comes apart. That's the only way I can describe what it looks like the first time. The jaw doesn't open the way a jaw opens, it launches. The entire lower half of the head, teeth and gums and all, comes shooting forward out from under that blade, out past where the front of the face was, snapping open and shut in a blur, and then it retracts, folds back, and slides in under the snout again like a drawer closing. And in a fraction of a second, the animal's face is a face again. Blade on top, small quiet mouth underneath, nothing to see. Researchers have gone frame by frame on this. The jaws travel out at something in the range of 3 meters per second. And the whole extension and retraction cycle takes about 1/3 of a second, which makes it, as far as anyone has measured, the fastest jaw protrusion of any shark on Earth. They call it slingshot feeding, and the reason it exists is that this animal is a terrible swimmer. It's slow, it's soft, it has almost no muscle worth mentioning. It cannot chase anything down, so instead of bringing its body to the prey, it fires its mouth off the front of its body and brings the prey to it. The animal is called a goblin shark. It lives, as best we can tell, somewhere between about 200 and 1,300 meters down, and occasionally deeper, and it is so rarely seen that a huge fraction of everything we know about it comes from specimens that got tangled in deep-set fishing gear and hauled up dead. It is not rare because it is endangered. It is rare because it lives somewhere we almost never go. And here's the thing that made me want to make this video. The goblin shark is not the strangest shark in the ocean. It's not even close. It's roughly 1/3 of the way down, and on the scale of what's below it, the goblin shark is a warm-up. If you're new here, take a second to subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of thing I go deep on every week, and it genuinely helps the channel. Right, let's go down. Here's the claim I want to make, and then spend the next couple of hours proving to you. Because I don't think it's obvious, and I don't think most people have ever had it explained properly. Sharks get stranger the deeper you go, and that's not a coincidence, and it's not a matter of taste, and it's not because deep-sea documentaries pick the ugly ones for the thumbnail. It is a rule. It is arithmetic. There is a direct, traceable, physical relationship between how far down an animal lives and how far its body drifts from the shape you think a shark should have. And once you understand what's driving it, you can almost predict what an animal will look like before you've seen it, just from knowing what depth it was pulled out of. 3 things drive it. That's the whole engine, and everything in this video comes back to these 3. The first is light. The sun dies fast in water, and every meter you descend removes options. Color goes, contrast goes, distance vision goes, and every single strategy that depends on seeing has to be either upgraded past the point of absurdity or abandoned and replaced with something else entirely. The second is food. Almost every calorie in the deep ocean originally came from sunlight at the surface, and the further down you go, the less of it makes the trip. Down there, food isn't scarce the way a bad harvest is scarce. It's scarce in a way that reshapes bodies, because when meals arrive weeks apart and you have no idea when the next one is coming, a body optimized for chasing becomes a liability, and a body optimized for waiting becomes the winner. And waiting bodies look wrong to us. They look slack and gaping and half-finished, and there's a reason for that. And the third is time, and this is the one nobody talks about, and I think it's the most unsettling of the three. Down there, everything slows down. Metabolism slows, growth slows, reproduction slows, lifespans stretch out past anything that makes intuitive sense to a species that lives 80 years. And time is also the reason these lineages are so old, because the deep sea is the most stable environment on this planet. The surface has been hammered over and over by ice ages and asteroid impacts and climate swings. The deep just sits there, cold and dark and unchanged, and things that go down there and work well tend to stay down there and keep working, more or less unchanged, for tens of millions of years. Which means that a lot of what you find in the deep isn't just weird, it's old. You're looking at body plans that stopped being updated a very long time ago. Light, food, time, hold those three. That's the machine that makes deep sea sharks feel wrong. But before we start descending, I want to build the baseline properly, because you can't appreciate how far these animals have drifted from normal unless you know exactly what normal is. So let me tell you what a shark actually is. And I promise this isn't the boring part, because there's a detail buried in here that ends up being the single most important fact in this entire video, and I'm going to plant it now and come back for it much later. Sharks are old. Genuinely, properly, hard to hold in your head old. The oldest fossils we can confidently assign to sharks and their relatives push back somewhere in the region of 450 million years. And shark-like teeth and scales show up in the record before there were trees. Before there were trees. Land plants at that point were low mossy things clinging to wet edges. There were no forests, no flowers, no grass, no insects flying, nothing with four legs walking anywhere. The continents were in completely different places. And there were already sharks. They've been through all 5 of the big mass extinctions. They were there before the dinosaurs arrived. They were there for the entire 165 million year run of the dinosaurs. And they were there afterwards, still swimming, while the survivors of that asteroid impact were sorting themselves out into birds and mammals. Every single shark alive today is the endpoint of an unbroken chain of living animals stretching back through all of that. Not one link missing. Not once. And the reason they've lasted is that the basic design is exceptionally good, and it's good in ways that aren't obvious from the outside. Start with the skeleton, because it's the headline difference. A shark's skeleton is not bone, it's cartilage, the same material that's in the tip of your nose and the rim of your ear, stiffened with mineral deposits in the places that need to take load, like the jaws and the vertebrae. And cartilage has 2 enormous advantages over bone. It's lighter, which matters constantly for something that has to keep itself off the seafloor. And it's flexible, which lets a shark bend its body into curves that would snap a bony fish's spine. The trade-off is that cartilage doesn't fossilize well, which is why the fossil record of sharks is mostly teeth. Millions and millions of teeth, and hardly any complete bodies. We're reconstructing 450 million years of history from a pile of teeth. Then there's the skin, and if you've never touched a shark, you have the wrong idea about it. It isn't smooth. It isn't slimy. Run your hand along a shark from nose to tail, and it feels like fine sandpaper. And that's because it's not covered in scales in the way a salmon is. It's covered in dermal denticles, which are, structurally, tiny teeth. Same construction, same enamel-like coating, same internal pulp. A shark is wrapped head to tail in a layer of microscopic teeth all pointing backwards, and those denticles do something clever. They break up the flow of water across the skin in a way that reduces drag and cuts down turbulence noise, which means a shark moves faster and quieter than it otherwise would. Engineers have copied it. There are swimsuit fabrics and aircraft surface films that exist because someone looked closely at shark skin. Then the teeth, which everyone knows about but usually gets slightly wrong. A shark's teeth aren't rooted in the jawbone the way yours are. They sit in the gum tissue in rows, and behind the front working row there's another row, and behind that another, lying flat and waiting. And the whole assembly moves forward continuously like a conveyor belt. When a tooth breaks or wears out or gets left in something, it falls out and the one behind rotates up to take its place, sometimes within a day. A single shark can go through tens of thousands of teeth in a lifetime. It is a self-repairing weapon system with an infinite ammunition supply. And it's been running for 450 million years, and that pile of fossil teeth I mentioned exists precisely because of it. Then the senses, and this is where sharks stop being impressive fish and start being something else. They can smell in a way that's genuinely difficult to describe. Not the mythological version, not one drop of blood in an Olympic pool from a mile away, that's an exaggeration. But the real version is startling enough. A large part of the shark's brain is dedicated to processing smell, and it's able to detect certain chemicals at concentrations in the range of parts per billion, and crucially it can compare what's arriving at the left nostril against what's arriving at the right, and detect the tiny time difference between them, and use that to work out which direction the smell is coming from. It doesn't just detect the scent, it reads a gradient and steers up it. And then, on top of that, there's the sense that has no equivalent in your body at all, and it's the one that matters most for where we're going. If you look closely at the snout of a shark, you'll see it's peppered with small dark pores. Hundreds of them, sometimes thousands, scattered across the front of the head. Those pores are the openings of tiny canals filled with a conductive jelly, and at the bottom of each canal sits a cluster of sensory cells. They're called the ampullae of Lorenzini, named after the Italian anatomist who described them in the 1670s and had absolutely no idea what they were for. What they are is an electrical sense. Every living animal generates a faint electrical field simply by being alive. Muscles firing produce electricity. A beating heart produces electricity. Even the movement of salty body fluids across membranes produces a field. It's tiny, it's local, and it dies away within a short distance. And a shark can feel it. The sensitivity involved is close to the theoretical limit of what's physically possible in seawater, down in the range of billionths of a volt per centimeter. Sit with what that actually means. A shark swimming past a patch of sand can feel the heartbeat of a flatfish buried underneath it. The fish is invisible. It is completely hidden, not moving, not making noise, not giving off scent because it's under sediment. And the shark knows exactly where it is. because it can feel the electricity of the fish being alive. Now hold that thought, because here's why I'm telling you all this at the start. Every one of those systems I just described works in the dark. Smell works in the dark. The lateral line, that row of pressure-sensing pores running down the flank that lets a shark feel water movement and vibration, works in the dark. Electroreception works in the dark. In fact, it works better in the dark because there's nothing else competing for the animal's attention. Sharks arrived at the entrance to the deep sea already carrying a full set of tools for a world with no light. They didn't have to invent anything. They were pre-adapted. They walked in the front door. And one last piece of the baseline, and this is the one I'm planting deliberately. Sharks have no swim bladder. A bony fish, a cod or a bass or a goldfish has a gas-filled sac inside it that it inflates and deflates to control its depth. Fill the bladder, you rise. Empty it, you sink. It's a clean solution, and it works beautifully, and it's also, as anyone who watched my last video will already be twitching about, an air pocket. And air pockets and deep water do not get along. Sharks never evolved one. Instead, they solved buoyancy with oil. A shark's liver is enormous, sometimes up to a quarter of its entire body weight, and it's packed with a light oily compound called squalane, which is significantly less dense than seawater. That liver works as a permanent flotation device. It doesn't need adjusting, it doesn't collapse, it doesn't compress. Because it's a liquid, and liquids don't compress. It's a swim bladder that can't be crushed. That single anatomical choice, made hundreds of millions of years ago for reasons that had nothing to do with the deep sea, is the reason sharks were able to colonize depths that most bony fish struggle to reach. And it is also, and I want you to remember this because we come back to it right at the end, the exact reason they eventually stop. There is a flaw under this whole story, and the flaw is made of liver oil. But that's a long way down yet. So that's a shark. Cartilage skeleton, sandpaper skin, infinite teeth, chemical tracking, pressure sensing, an electrical sixth sense, and a liver full of oil holding it up. That's the machine we're about to send into the dark. Let's talk about what the dark actually does. The single most important fact about the ocean, the one that drives almost everything strange about it, is how fast light disappears. And I don't think most people have a feel for it. Because when you're at the beach, or snorkeling, or looking at a swimming pool, water seems basically transparent. It isn't. Water is transparent over the scale of a bathtub. Over the scale of an ocean, it's practically a wall. Here's roughly what happens. In clear, open ocean water, by the time you're 10 meters down, you've lost a substantial chunk of the sunlight that hit the surface, and you've lost essentially all of the red. That's why blood looks green underwater, and it's why every diver's photograph without a flash comes out blue. Red light has the longest wavelength of anything we can see, and it's absorbed first, within the top few meters. Then orange goes around 20 or 30 meters. Then yellow, then green. Blue penetrates furthest, which is why the deep ocean is blue, and eventually blue goes too. By 100 meters, you're down to somewhere around 1% of the surface light on a good day. By 200 meters, in the clearest water on Earth, you have functionally nothing left. There's a faint blue haze from above if you look up, and total blackness if you look anywhere else. We give these bands names. The top layer, roughly 0 to 200 meters, is the epipelagic zone, the sunlit zone. That's where photosynthesis happens, that's where nearly all the ocean's food is originally made, and that's where essentially every shark you've ever heard of lives. From 200 down to 1,000 meters is the mesopelagic, the twilight zone, and that name is doing a lot of work. Because twilight makes it sound like dusk, and it isn't. For most of that range, it is far darker than the darkest night you have ever experienced on land. Because on land, there's always something. Stars, moon, distant town glow. Down there, for most of that band, the light is so faint that only an eye specifically built to catch it can register anything at all. And below 1,000 meters is the bathypelagic, the midnight zone, where the sunlight is simply gone, not dim. Gone, there is no photon from the sun down there at any hour, on any day, anywhere in the world. And that's still not the bottom. Below that is the abyssal zone, out past 4,000 meters, and below that the Hadal Trenches, named after Hades, reaching down past 10,000 meters. But we'll get there. Now, before we descend, let's look properly at the sharks in the sunlight, because I want you to have the reference image locked in. Think about the sharks you can picture without effort. Great white, tiger, bull, hammerhead, mako, blue shark, reef sharks. Now think about what they have in common, physically, and it's striking once you notice it. They're all built to the same broad plan. Torpedo-shaped body, thick through the middle, tapering both ways, stiff high dorsal fin, crescent-shaped tail, rigid pectoral fins that work like aircraft wings, muscular, dense, and above all fast. A short-fin mako, the fastest of them, can hit speeds in the range of 30 to 45 miles an hour in a burst, and can jump clear of the water by 20 feet or more. And they're colored a very specific way. Dark on top, pale underneath, with a fairly sharp line between the two. That's called countershading, and it's a lighting trick. Seen from above, against the dark water below, the dark back blends in. Seen from below, against the bright surface, the pale belly disappears into the glare. The animal is painted to cancel out the way light falls in the top 200 meters of the ocean. It's camouflage designed by the sun. Every one of those features exists because of the conditions in the sunlit zone. There's food up there. There's a lot of it, because that's where photosynthesis happens, so the calories are available to run an expensive, muscular, high-speed body. And there's light, so vision is worth investing in, and so is being hard to see. Speed and camouflage both pay off enormously when your prey can see you coming. That's the shark you have in your head. Fast, sleek, visual, powerful, and shaped by the sun. And every single one of those pressures is about to be switched off, one by one, as we go down. So watch what the body does as they turn off. And there's a second thing switching off as we descend, and it's quieter than the light, but it bends bodies even harder. So let's get it in place before we meet anything. Almost every calorie in the ocean starts as sunlight. Tiny drifting plants in the top 200 meters catch photons and turn them into sugar. And everything else, all the way down, is ultimately eating that. Which means the deep sea is not a place that grows its own food. It's a place that receives food from above as leftovers. And the way it arrives is called marine snow, and the name is exactly right. It's a constant, slow, endless drift of small, pale particles falling through the water column, and if you put a light on in the deep, it looks like a blizzard that never lands. What it actually consists of is less pleasant than snow. Dead plankton, fragments of dead fish, shed scales and mucus, fecal pellets, bits of anything that died anywhere above. All of it clumping together and sinking, slowly, at a rate that means a particle leaving the surface can take weeks to reach the seafloor. And here's the brutal part. On the way down, everything else eats it. Every layer takes a cut. By the time that snow has fallen a kilometer, the overwhelming majority of the energy that started at the surface has already been consumed and respired away by whatever was in the middle. The commonly cited figure is that only a small percentage of surface production makes it past 1,000 meters. And by the abyssal floor, you're often talking about a fraction of 1%. So the deep sea runs on scraps of scraps. And that changes what kind of body wins. Up in the sunlight, being fast pays, there's enough food to run an expensive engine, and speed lets you catch more of it than the next animal. Down here, that logic inverts completely, and it inverts hard. Muscle is expensive to build and expensive to keep. Swimming fast burns calories you have no reliable way of replacing. If food arrives at unpredictable intervals measured in weeks, then the animal that spends its energy hunting will starve long before the animal that spends almost nothing and simply waits. So deep-sea bodies get cheap. Muscle mass drops. Skeletons get lighter and more loosely built. Tissues get watery and flabby, partly because water weighs nothing to carry and costs nothing to grow, and it fills out a body's volume without an energy bill. Metabolic rates fall through the floor. And the animals stop looking athletic, because athleticism down there is a way of dying. But you still have to eat when the opportunity comes, and opportunities are rare, so a second rule shows up alongside the first. When a meal does appear, you must be able to take it, whatever size it is. You do not get to be picky. You do not get to say too big. So mouths get enormous relative to bodies, jaws get looser, stomachs get expandable. And teeth get long and inward curving so that once something is in, it cannot get out. That combination is the signature of the deep, and it's the whole reason these animals unsettle us. A slack, watery, weak-looking body with an oversized, gaping mouth full of needles reads to a human eye as diseased, or starving, or wrong. It's none of those. It's optimal. You are looking at the correct answer to a problem you've never had to solve, and it looks like illness because your instincts were trained in a world where food comes regularly. Light and food. That's 2 of the 3 engines running. We'll pick up the third, time, further down, because it takes a while to become visible. So, we're starting the descent. First stop, 200 meters, the top edge of the twilight zone, and the first thing I want to introduce you to is an animal that looks more than almost anything else alive, like something that should have gone extinct. It's called the blunt-nose 6-gill shark, and the name gives away exactly what's odd about it, but you have to know a little bit to catch it. Nearly every shark you'll ever meet has 5 gill slits on each side. 5, it's so consistent that it's practically a definition. Great white, 5, tiger shark, 5, hammerhead, 5, little reef sharks, 5, the 6-gill has 6. And that sounds like trivia until you realize what it means, which is that this animal is a leftover. 6 and 7 gill slits are the ancient condition. That's the arrangement you find in the oldest shark fossils, and the modern 5-slit design is the newer model that came along later and outcompeted the old one nearly everywhere. Nearly, the old design is still running right now in deep water all over the world, in an animal that looks like a fossil got up and started swimming. And the 6-gill is not some tiny relic clinging on in a corner. Large individuals reach 15 or 16 feet and can weigh over 1,000 pounds. It's one of the biggest sharks in the ocean, And most people have never heard of it because it lives in a place where nobody goes swimming. And look at what's happened to the body. Compared to a great white, it's a different philosophy entirely. The sixth gill is heavy-bodied and loose, almost sluggish-looking. It has a single small dorsal fin set way back near the tail instead of the tall triangular one you're picturing. The tail itself isn't the balanced crescent of a fast open water hunter, it's long and asymmetrical, with a big upper lobe and a small lower one, which is the ancient shape and the slow shape. The mouth is wide and set well back under a broad, blunt head. And the teeth in the lower jaw are like nothing on a surface shark. They're wide, flat, saw-blade-shaped combs, built for gripping and sawing chunks off things rather than for slicing at speed. And then there are the eyes, and the eyes are the thing. They're a vivid, unnatural, luminous green, and in photographs they look like they're lit from inside. People assume it's a trick of the camera flash, and it isn't, not exactly. It's a real structure, and it's the same one that makes a cat's eyes flash in headlights. And it's the first great adaptation to darkness that we run into on the way down, so let's do it properly. It's called a tapetum lucidum, which means bright carpet, and it sits behind the retina. When light enters your eye, it passes through the retina, and whatever isn't absorbed on the way through is soaked up by a dark layer at the back and lost. That's fine for you, because you live in a world with plenty of light and you'd rather have a crisp image than a bright one. In a deep-sea shark, the layer at the back isn't dark. It's a mirror made of stacked crystal plates. Light comes in, passes through the retina, hits the mirror and gets reflected straight back out through the retina again, giving the light-sensitive cells a second chance at every single photon. The effect is roughly a doubling of sensitivity. And in an environment where the difference between seeing something and not seeing something is a factor of 2, that is the entire ballgame. Many deep sharks can also adjust it, sliding pigment across the mirror to dim it down when they rise into brighter water, so they're not blinded on the way up. That's the first move in an arms race that runs the entire length of the twilight zone, and the second move is simply build a bigger eye. It's not subtle, and it works. A bigger lens gathers more light, the same way a bigger telescope does, and down in the twilight zone eyes start to swell up out of all proportion. The big-eye thresher is the poster child. It's a beautiful animal with an absurdly long whip of an upper tail lobe that it uses to stun fish. And it has eyes that can reach around 4 inches across, set in sockets that extend upward into the roof of the skull so it can look directly up. Up specifically because in the twilight zone, the only reliable light left is the faint blue glow filtering down from the surface, which means the only reliable way to see anything is to look upward and catch its silhouette against that glow. I want to slow down on that, because it's the hinge that everything else in this video swings on. In the twilight zone, being seen from below is the single greatest danger there is. There is a dim blue ceiling above you at all times, and anything between a predator and that ceiling shows up as a black shape. You can be perfectly camouflaged from every other angle. Doesn't matter. From below, you are a silhouette, and silhouettes get eaten. So how do you solve that? On land, you'd hide behind something. There is nothing to hide behind. In shallow water, you'd use countershading, a pale belly to match the bright surface. But down here, the pale belly isn't enough, because the contrast between faintly lit water and solid object is still obvious to an eye built to catch single photons. A white belly is still a dark shape against a glow. There's really only one solution, And when you first hear it, it sounds insane. You make your own light, and you make exactly enough of it on your underside to match the brightness of the water above you, so that a predator looking up sees no shape at all. You erase your own silhouette by glowing. It's called counter-illumination, and it is one of the most widespread and least appreciated survival strategies on Earth, and it is the point where sharks stop looking like sharks. Because here's a fact that I think should be much more famous than it is. Out of roughly 540 known shark species, something like 57 of them can produce their own light. That's more than 10%. More than 1 in 10 sharks glows in the dark, and almost nobody knows it, including plenty of people who consider themselves shark enthusiasts, because the ones that glow are the ones nobody ever sees. The classic examples are the lantern sharks, family Etmopteridae, and they're a huge and successful group. Most of them are small, in the range of a foot to 2 feet, and they live in the twilight zone in oceans all over the world in enormous numbers. And they are covered in photophores, which are tiny light-producing organs embedded in the skin. On the belly, those photophores are packed densely and produce a soft blue-green glow, and the density is graded so that the light output matches the light coming from above. Some species can even adjust the intensity. And the mechanism for controlling it is beautifully odd. In most glowing animals, luminescence is switched on and off by nerves, directly the way you'd flick a light switch. In sharks, it's hormonal. Research on these animals has found that melatonin, the same hormone that makes you sleepy at night, triggers the glow, that another hormone amplifies it, and a third shuts it off. Which means a lantern shark's light isn't controlled by decision. It's controlled by chemistry on a slower timescale, more like a mood than a switch. The shark doesn't flick its glow on. It drifts into it. And once you've got light-producing organs in your skin, evolution starts finding other jobs for them. And this is where it goes from clever to genuinely strange. Take the velvet belly lantern shark. Like its relatives, it has spines in front of its dorsal fins, a defensive feature. And it has photophores arranged along the base of those spines so that, in the dark, the spines are backlit. Researchers describe this as the shark carrying lightsabers, and honestly, that's the correct description. The animal's defensive weapons are illuminated so that anything considering eating it can see exactly what it's about to bite down on. It's a warning sign, glowing in the dark on a shark. Other lantern sharks have glowing patches along their flanks, arranged in patterns that differ between species. And the leading idea is that these are signals for recognizing your own kind in the dark, since finding a mate in an unlit ocean is a genuinely hard problem, and possibly for coordinating with others while hunting. Which raises a possibility I find quietly astonishing. There may be sharks down there that are communicating with light, not sending complex messages, nobody is claiming that, but signaling identity and presence with patterns of glow in a place where nothing has seen the sun in the entire history of that lineage. Now let me give you the extremes of this group, because they're both remarkable. At the small end is the dwarf lantern shark. It's one of the smallest sharks known, a fully grown adult being about the length of a pencil, something in the region of 7 or 8 inches, small enough to hold comfortably in one hand. It lives off the coast of South America at depths of several hundred meters, and it has glowing patches on its belly and along its fins. happens. There is an entire complete shark, with the jaws and the dentical skin and the electrical sense and the liver full of oil, all the machinery of a 450-million-year-old design, packed into something the size of your hand, drifting in the dark, quietly glowing to erase its own shadow. And at the large end, there's the kitefin shark, and this one made headlines for good reason. In 2020, a team of researchers working off the Chatham Rise east of New Zealand brought up deep-sea sharks in nets and did something researchers had rarely bothered to do. They put them in tanks of seawater in a completely dark room and simply watched. And the kitefin shark, a stocky animal reaching close to 6 feet, lit up. The whole underside, glowing a soft blue-green, plus a glow on the dorsal fin that nobody had predicted and nobody can fully explain. The lead researcher, Junrei Malafet, said he nearly cried when he saw it. Their 2021 paper established the kitefin shark as the largest luminous vertebrate known to science. Not the largest luminous shark, the largest glowing animal with a backbone that we know of anywhere. Think about the scene, because it's a strange one. That animal had been glowing off New Zealand for however many millions of years, and the only reason it took until 2021 for anyone to write it down is that nobody had put one in a dark room and looked. And the researchers raised a question about that glow that stuck with me. For a small lantern shark, counter-illumination makes obvious sense, because plenty of things want to eat it. But a 6-foot kitefin shark has very few predators. So why is it hiding its silhouette? One suggestion is that it isn't hiding at all, or not only hiding, it's hunting. A glowing underside doesn't just conceal you from things below. It conceals you from things below that you're planning to eat. The camouflage is offensive. It's a slow, unhurried predator drifting through the dark with its belly lit so that whatever it's descending toward never sees it arrive. And that idea, using light to attack rather than to hide, brings us to the animal I've been building toward this whole section. And it's the one that I think genuinely deserves the word creepy, and not because of how it looks, because of how it thinks. The cookie-cutter shark, Isistius brasiliensis. It's a small animal about the size of a large cucumber, somewhere in the range of 17 to 22 inches. Cigar-shaped. Brown, big forward-set eyes. If you saw one in a bucket, you would not be alarmed. You would think small fish. Its entire underside is covered in photophores, and it glows a soft green-blue, more brightly than almost any other shark. Standard counter-illumination so far. Except for one detail. There's a band around its throat, just in front of the gill slits, that does not glow. A dark collar. Now think about what that looks like from below. You are a large predatory fish, a tuna or a marlin or a swordfish or a dolphin looking up into the faint light from the surface. Above you, the cookie-cutter shark is invisible because its glowing belly perfectly matches the background. It has erased itself. And in the middle of that erased nothing, there is one small dark shape, roughly the size and outline of a little fish, hanging in the water. You go for it. And what's actually there is a mouth. That dark collar is a lure. The shark has hidden its own body and left behind a fake silhouette shaped like prey, and it hangs in the water column, waiting for something much larger and much faster than itself to come and investigate. This is a shark that cannot catch a tuna. So it convinces the tuna to catch it. And what happens next is the part that upgrades this animal from clever to nightmarish. The cookie-cutter's mouth is built like nothing else. The lips are thick and fleshy and function as a suction cup. and it can seal them against a surface and pull a genuine vacuum by retracting its tongue like bacille. Once it's attached, it can't be shaken off easily. And the teeth are the strangest part. The upper teeth are small and narrow and act as anchors holding position. The lower teeth are enormous relative to the animal, wide, flat, triangular, interlocking edge to edge into a single continuous serrated blade running the whole width of the jaw. Proportional to body size, the cookie cutter shark has the largest lower teeth of any shark alive. So it attaches. It sinks that lower blade in, and then it rotates. It spins its entire body around the axis of its own mouth, and the blade cuts a circle. And it comes away with a perfectly round plug of flesh, an ice cream scoop crater a couple of inches across and deeper than it is wide. Then it lets go and drifts off into the dark, and the enormous animal it just took a bite out of swims away with a hole in it. They call the marks cookie cutter wounds, and once you know what they look like, you start seeing them everywhere. On whales, on dolphins, on tuna, on billfish, on seals, on other sharks, including great whites. There are populations of whales where nearly every individual carries multiple scars. This tiny animal, 10 times smaller than its victims and sometimes 100 times, is quietly taking bites out of virtually every large animal in the open ocean all night, every night, worldwide. It's not really a predator. It's a parasite that happens to be a shark. And the strategy is so effective that the shark has essentially stopped competing. It doesn't hunt, it doesn't chase, it doesn't kill. It takes a small piece from something enormous and lets it live, which is a far better business model than killing. Because a dead prey animal is one meal, and a living wounded one is a whole ocean of walking meals that keep coming past. And the shark also travels an absurd distance to do this. Cookie cutters spend the day down in the deep, at depths that have been recorded well past 3,000 meters, and every evening they rise. They swim up, sometimes climbing well over a mile, into the surface layers to feed under cover of night, and before dawn they descend again. Every day, up nearly 2 miles and back down. And they're not alone in this, because that vertical migration, which happens across the entire world ocean every night, is the largest movement of animal biomass on this planet. A vast layer of small fish and squid and crustaceans rising in the dark to feed and sinking at dawn to hide. It shows up on ship sonar as a false seafloor that climbs toward the surface every evening. During World War II, naval operators picked it up and thought they'd found a shallow bottom in the middle of the ocean. They called it the deep scattering layer, and it took years to work out that it was alive. Now, here's the piece of the cookie cutter story that made me want to include it, because it's the moment where this animal reached up and touched us. In the 1970s, the United States Navy had a problem. Nuclear submarines were coming back from patrol with damage to their sonar domes, the rubber-covered housings at the bow that protect the acoustic gear. The damage was small circular holes, clean-edged, in the rubber. In some cases, the punctures let the oil inside the dome leak out, which meant the sonar stopped working properly and the boat had to return to base for repair. A nuclear submarine blinded, going home. The initial theories were what you'd expect: manufacturing defects, material failure, sabotage, somebody deliberately damaging the fleet. Then they analyzed the holes, same diameter every time, same crater profile, same faint spiral scoring on the inside surface, consistent with something rotating while it cut. they'd been bitten. The most advanced war machines ever built at the height of the Cold War were being disabled by a fish the size of a cucumber, because the rubber dome, glowing faintly as the submarine pushed through bioluminescent plankton, apparently looked like something worth biting. The Navy's eventual answer was to redesign the covering with fiberglass, and the problem went away. That is a real line in the history of naval engineering. Submarine hulls were modified because of a small shark's dietary preferences. They've bitten people too, a handful of confirmed cases, all in Hawaii, all involving long-distance swimmers in deep water at night. It's not remotely a common danger. But there is something about the specific circumstance that lingers, which is that if it happens to you, you never see it. You are in dark water at night. There is nothing there. There is only the faint glow you'd never notice, and the small dark shape you'd never think about. And then the impact. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, by the way, and whether you're a swim in the open ocean person or a stay firmly on the boat person, because I have a feeling this video is going to sort people into two very clear camps. So look at what's happened already, and we're only at about 1,000 meters. We started with a fast, muscular, sunlit hunter, painted to match the water. And in the space of a single vertical kilometer, we've picked up a 15-foot living fossil with 6 gills and green mirrored eyes. A hand-sized shark that glows to delete its own shadow. A family of sharks carrying illuminated warning spines. The largest glowing animal with a spine on the entire planet. And a parasite that fakes being a small fish so that big fish will come close enough for it to core them like an apple. And that's the shallow end. Everything I've just described is still within reach of the last faint trace of sunlight. Everything I've described so far is happening in a zone where, if you looked straight up at midday, you would see the faintest possible suggestion of blue. Now we go below 1,000 meters, where that suggestion of blue disappears entirely and never comes back. And in that permanent black, the animals stop bothering with light altogether, and something else starts happening to their bodies. Something I find harder to look at than the glowing or the biting. Because down there, the strangeness stops being about weapons and starts being about time. And the first thing waiting for us has been swimming in that darkness, essentially unchanged since before the Atlantic Ocean existed. It's about 2 meters long, and the first thing your brain does when it sees one is refuse to call it a shark. It's called the frilled shark, and it was properly described in 1884 by an American naturalist named Samuel Garman. And the reason it took until 1884 is the same reason it takes until now. For most of these animals, nobody had a way of getting down to where it lives and coming back with it. Almost every frilled shark anyone has ever examined came up dead or dying in deep-set nets, usually somewhere between 500 and 1,500 meters, and the ones that have been filmed alive at the surface were sick animals that had drifted up out of their world into ours. Which is why the handful of videos that exist have that awful quality of watching something in the wrong place. Look at the body. It is long and thin, and it moves in slow lateral waves. And it does not have the stiff torpedo shape we spent so long establishing as the shark default. It looks like an eel. The fins are small and set far back. There's no keel, no crescent tail, no high dorsal, none of the hardware of a fast open water hunter. Everything about the silhouette says slow. And then there are the gills, and this is where the name comes from. 6 of them on each side, like the 6 gill we met further up, which already tells you we're in ancient territory. But these are different. The gill filaments are frilly and ruffled at the edges, giving the whole throat area a soft, feathery look, and the lowest pair of gill slits actually meet and join across the underside of the throat, forming a single continuous collar around the animal's neck. That's not a feature you'll find on any surface shark. That's a design decision from a very long time ago. And the mouth. The mouth is the thing. On the shark you're picturing, a great white or a tiger, the mouth is underslung. It sits on the underside of the head, tucked back beneath a pointed snout, which is efficient for a fast animal biting things while moving. On the frilled shark, the mouth is at the very front, terminal, opening at the tip of the head like a tube. It has essentially no snout. The face is a hole. And inside that hole are about 300 teeth, arranged in around 25 rows, and they are unlike anything else in the modern ocean. Each tooth is a small three-pointed spike, a trident, needle-sharp, and every one of them curves inward, backward, toward the throat. The rows are set out so that when the mouth is open, the whole interior surface is a bed of backward-facing needles. Now think about what that means. Mechanically, those teeth are useless for cutting. You cannot slice with a trident of needles. You cannot saw with them, you cannot crush with them. They do exactly one job, and they do it perfectly. Anything that goes in cannot come back out. Every time the prey struggles, it works itself further onto the points. It's a lobster pot made of teeth. And what does it eat? Mostly squid, and this is where the whole picture snaps into place. Because squid in the deep are fast, soft, muscular, and extremely good at escaping. They're jet-propelled. They can accelerate in any direction. A slow, weak-bodied animal has no chance whatsoever of chasing one down. So the frilled shark doesn't chase. The best supported idea about how it feeds is that it hangs in the water, motionless, curved into an S shape like a snake about to strike, with that terminal mouth open. And when something comes close, it lunges forward using the whole length of its body as a spring, mouth first, and takes the prey in one movement. There may also be suction involved, the throat expanding to pull water and prey inward, which is exactly what you'd expect from a mouth built like a tube rather than a set of shears. The white edges of its jaws may even work as a lure in the dark, the way pale markings do on other deep-sea ambush predators, though that one's still an open question. And here's the part that belongs to the third engine, the one I said we'd pick up further down. Time. The frilled shark's reproduction is not fully documented because almost nothing about its reproduction can be observed. But the best available estimates from examining pregnant females put the gestation period at something in the region of 3.5 years. If that's right, and it's the figure that keeps showing up in the literature. It is the longest pregnancy of any vertebrate animal on Earth, longer than an elephant's, which is under 2 years. Roughly 3.5 times longer than yours. 3.5 years. In total darkness, carrying embryos that develop with no seasons, no temperature change, no external signal of any kind, in water that sits at the same few degrees above freezing for the entire duration. The pups grow at something like 1.5 centimeters a month, which is a rate you'd have to film for weeks to notice. There is no rush down there because there is nothing to rush for. No summer to be born into, no migration to catch, no predator season. Just the same cold black indefinitely and a body that has slowed itself down to match. That's what I meant when I said the deep gets strange in a way that stops being about weapons. Up in the light, evolution builds speed. Down here, it builds patience, and patience at a scale that our species is genuinely poorly equipped to feel. And now that we've got that, let's go back and properly look at the animal I opened with, because I showed you what it does and I never told you what it is. The goblin shark is the last surviving member of a family called the Mitsukurinidae, and that family's fossil record runs back somewhere in the region of 125 million years. Everything else in it is gone. Every cousin, every branch, every related lineage that ever existed, extinct, with one exception, which is still down there firing its jaw at squid off the coast of Japan and in deep canyons around the world. It was named in 1898 from a specimen brought up in Japanese waters, and Japanese fishermen apparently had a name for it long before scientists did, calling it the tengu shark after a long-nosed goblin from folklore, which is where the English name eventually comes from. Take that blade on the front of its head, because it isn't a weapon and it isn't a blade. It's a sensor array. Remember the ampullae of Lorenzini, the electrical sense, the pores in the snout that let a shark feel the living electricity of another animal. In most sharks, those pores are spread across the front of the head. In the goblin shark, that flattened extended rostrum is absolutely loaded with them, packed at high density across a large, forward-projecting surface. And now think about what that gives you. The goblin shark lives in a place where light is either non-existent or so faint it's barely worth having eyes for, and indeed its eyes are small and it appears to rely on them very little. It is slow, it is soft, it has no chance in a chase, so it drifts quietly in the black, holding out in front of its own face a wide flat panel that reads electrical fields. It isn't looking for prey, it's feeling for it. It's sweeping the darkness with an antenna, waiting for the faint electrical signature of something alive to cross the panel. And the moment it does, the mouth fires. Now here's the detail that makes the slingshot work, and it's a lovely piece of anatomy. In most sharks, the upper jaw is only loosely attached to the skull, which is what lets a great white push its jaws forward slightly when it bites. In the goblin shark, that arrangement has been taken to an extreme. The jaws are suspended on long, elastic ligaments, held folded back under the snout with tension stored in them like a drawn bow. When the shark fires, the ligaments release and the jaws are thrown forward, out past the tip of the head at around 3 meters per second. Then, two specialized muscles, called the tenaculum, like ligaments in the literature, pull them back in and reset the mechanism. The whole cycle takes roughly 1/3 of a second, and the jaw's forward reach is a substantial fraction of the head's length. And crucially, the prey never has to be caught up with. It only has to come within range of a mouth that can travel further and faster than the body that carries it. I keep coming back to the trade-off because it's the clearest illustration of the food rule from earlier. The goblin shark gave up the ability to swim well. It has soft, flabby muscle, a poorly calcified skeleton, minimal fast twitch power. In the sunlit ocean, that animal would be dead in a week. In the deep, it's a positive advantage, because a slow animal costs almost nothing to run. And the thing it lost, the ability to chase, has been replaced by a mechanism that makes chasing unnecessary. And even the color is a consequence. That pale, unsettling pink isn't pigment. Goblin sharks are essentially colorless. Their skin is semi-translucent and the pink is the blood underneath showing through. Which is exactly what you'd expect. because pigment is a defense against light and against being seen, and down there neither of those things exists. Skin color is a cost with no benefit, so it's been dropped. The goblin shark looks the way it does, partly because evolution stopped paying for paint. I want to add one more thing about this animal, because it's the thing that unsettles me most, and it has nothing to do with its face. We have no real idea how many there are. We can't survey them. We can't track them. Every data point we have is essentially an accident. A fishing boat working deep water in the wrong place, and there have been years where only a handful turned up anywhere in the world. We don't know their population, their lifespan, their breeding, their movements. An entire vertebrate lineage, 125 million years old, one of the strangest predators on this planet, and our knowledge of it is basically a scrapbook of accidents. That's the thing that gets less attention than the weirdness, and I want to say it plainly here, because it applies to everything from this point down. We are not exploring the deep sea. We're glimpsing it, and the glimpses keep telling us we don't know what's there. Which brings me to the single best demonstration of that fact I know of, and it happened on the 15th of November 1976, in water off the coast of Oahu, Hawaii. A U.S. Navy research vessel deployed a couple of parachute-style sea anchors at a depth of around 165 meters. When the crew hauled them back in, something was tangled in one of them, something enormous. They got it aboard, and it was a shark, roughly 4.5 meters long, over a ton in weight, and nobody had the slightest idea what it was. It didn't match anything. It had a soft, bulbous, rounded head with a truly gigantic mouth, wide and rubbery, set right at the front. And the inside of the mouth was lined with a silvery, reflective tissue and a fringe of small filaments. The body was flabby and loose, tapering back to a soft tail. It had tiny teeth, hundreds of rows of them, each one no bigger than a grain of rice and completely useless for biting anything. Because it wasn't a hunter, it was a filter feeder, swimming slowly through the deep with that enormous mouth open, straining out plankton and small shrimp. They named it Megachasma pelagius, meaning great yawner of the open sea, and everyone just calls it the megamouth shark. And here's what makes it such a good story. Before that afternoon in 1976, we knew of exactly two filter-feeding sharks in the world, the whale shark and the basking shark, both of them famous, both of them enormous, both of them known for centuries. And then a third one turned up, 1.5 tons of it, in an ocean that fishing fleets and navies and research vessels had been working for generations, and it had never once been recorded. Not in a net, not in a stomach, not in a fisherman's story, not in a photograph. It wasn't hiding in some unreachable trench. It was at 165 meters in the Pacific off Hawaii. And it took a Navy sea anchor snagging it by pure chance for us to find out it existed at all. Since then, in the 50 years since, confirmed megamouth encounters worldwide number somewhere around 120 to 250, depending on which record you trust, which averages out to a handful a year across the entire planet. We've learned that it does the vertical migration thing, staying deep during the day and rising toward the surface at night, presumably following the same drifting food layer the cookie cutter is hunting in. And that's about the extent of it. So the honest position on deep-sea sharks is this: 1.5 ton animal with a mouth like a cave managed to remain completely unknown to science until 1976. Which should tell you exactly how much confidence to place in any statement about what does and doesn't live down there. And if you think 1976 was a one-off, a leftover from a less thorough age of science, I want to give you two more, both of them recent enough that people watching this were already alive and online. In 1986, off the coast of Japan, researchers pulled up a small dark shark, about half a meter long, that nobody could place. They eventually named it Trigonognathus cabii, and the common name it picked up is the viper dogfish, and I would strongly encourage you to go and look at one after this, because a description does not do it. It's a slim, dark, unremarkable-looking little animal from the side, related to the lantern sharks, glowing softly on its underside like the rest of that family. Ordinary enough until it opens its mouth. Because the jaws don't just open, they swing forward and downward on a hinge, dropping open into a wide gape, and the teeth are unlike anything else in the shark world. Instead of the flat triangular blades you're picturing, they're long, thin, curved fangs, widely spaced, each one standing up on its own like a needle, in a pattern that looks far more like a deep-sea viperfish than a shark. Hence the name. And the reason is the same food logic we keep running into. It eats bony fish that are large relative to its own head, in the dark, one at a time, with no second chances. So the jaws extend forward to reach further and to get around a big target. And the teeth are built purely to impale and hold rather than to cut. The animal has been observed with prey in its stomach swallowed whole and essentially intact. It doesn't process food. It engulfs it, hangs on with a mouthful of needles, and works it down. And here's the part I keep coming back to. That animal has been described for less than 40 years. It lives in some of the most heavily fished waters in the world, off Japan and Taiwan and Hawaii, and total confirmed specimens number in the low dozens. Then there's a discovery from 2015, and this one has a lovely human story attached. Researchers working off the Pacific coast of Central America identified a new lantern shark, small, uniformly jet black, with dramatically fewer photophores than its relatives, giving it a much dimmer, more subtle glow. The lead researcher, Vicky Vesquez, decided to let her young cousins help pick the common name. Their suggestion, unanimously, was Super Ninja Shark, because it was black and it was sneaky and it glowed faintly in the dark. She talked them down to just Ninja, and the animal is now officially called the Ninja Lantern Shark, Etmopterus benchley. The species name honoring Peter Benchley, the man who wrote Jaws and then spent much of the rest of his life campaigning for shark conservation because of what his own book had done to the animal's reputation. I love that as a footnote to this whole subject. The single most damaging piece of shark publicity in human history ended up with its author's name attached to a small black glowing shark named by a group of children. But the serious point underneath both of those stories is the same one the megamouth made, and it's the point I want fully lodged before we go any further down. New sharks are still being described at a rate of several species a year, and the overwhelming majority of them are deep water species. And the reason isn't that they're newly evolved or newly arrived, it's that we're finally getting equipment down there. Every time we put a better camera or a deeper net or a new submersible into that part of the ocean, we find things we did not know existed. And we've done that in a vanishingly small fraction of the available volume. People talk about the deep sea being less explored than the surface of the moon, and that comparison gets thrown around so often it's stopped landing, so let me put it a different way. We have complete photographic maps of Mars. We have driven vehicles across it. And we have direct visual observation of a genuinely tiny percentage of our own seafloor. And the observations we do have are heavily clustered around a few well-funded sites. The deep ocean is not a frontier we're steadily working through. It's a place we've dropped a handful of pins into. So when I say sharks get stranger the deeper you go, understand that this is a statement about what we've happened to catch. The pattern is real and the physics behind it is solid. But every single animal in this video is one we found by accident or by dragging a net through the dark, and the sample is not the population. Right, now, we've gone through light and we've gone through food. It's time for the third engine, and this is where the video changes temperature, because everything from here on is about time, and time down there does something that I still find difficult to properly absorb. Here's the setup. Cold slows chemistry. That's not a metaphor, it's basic physical chemistry. Reactions run slower at lower temperatures, and life is chemistry. So life runs slower when it's cold. Combine that with the food rule, where the winning strategy is to spend as little as possible, and you get animals whose entire metabolisms have been dialed down to a level that's hard to compare to anything familiar. And when metabolism slows, everything downstream of it slows too. Growth slows. Sexual maturity gets pushed back. Reproduction gets rarer. And lifespan, which is broadly tied to metabolic rate across the animal kingdom, stretches out. Which brings us to the animal I've been building toward this whole video, and I don't think there's a more astonishing vertebrate alive. The Greenland shark. Somniosus microcephalus. The name is almost rude, somniosus meaning sleepy, microcephalus meaning small-headed. The sleepy, small-headed shark. It lives in the cold water of the North Atlantic and the Arctic, from a few hundred meters down to over 2,000, in water that hovers around 1 to 4 degrees Celsius. And it grows to lengths that rival a great white, up to about 7 meters in the largest reported individuals, with plenty of confirmed animals in the 4 to 5 meter range. And it is the slowest fish that has ever been measured. Researchers who tagged them found average cruising speeds in the region of 0.3 meters per second, which is a bit over 1 kilometer per hour. That's slower than a comfortable human walking pace. Substantially slower. If you were in the water beside one, you would have to actively hold yourself back to avoid overtaking it. Its tail beat frequency is so low that biologists initially struggled to believe the data, and yet its stomach contents include seals. That's the paradox that everyone runs into, and it's a genuinely good puzzle. How does the slowest fish in the ocean, moving at walking pace, end up with fresh seal in it? Seals are among the most agile animals in the water. A Greenland shark should not be able to get within 10 meters of one. There are a few explanations on the table, and they may all be partly right. Some of the seal remains are almost certainly scavenged, because Greenland sharks are enthusiastic scavengers and will eat essentially anything dead they encounter. There are documented cases of them containing polar bear remains, reindeer, moose, and pieces of whale, which paints a picture of an animal that simply hoovers up whatever the Arctic drops into the water. But some of the seal remains have been fresh and intact in a way that's hard to square with scavenging, and the most popular hypothesis is genuinely eerie: the shark finds seals asleep. Seals sleep in the water. They have to. And a Greenland shark is silent, it's slow, it produces almost no pressure wave because it's barely moving, and it's approaching in total darkness in water where a seal has no reason to expect a predator that isn't an orca or a polar bear. It doesn't need speed. It needs to arrive without waking anything up. The slowest fish on Earth may be an ambush predator whose ambush consists of drifting up to something that is unconscious. And then there's the eyes. And I'll be honest, this is the detail that most people find hardest to hear. Almost every adult Greenland shark examined is carrying a parasite called Omatocoita elongata. It's a copepod, a small crustacean, a couple of centimeters long with a trailing egg sac, and it does one specific thing. It attaches itself to the shark's cornea. It anchors into the eye tissue and it stays there, feeding, for years. And the damage it causes to the cornea is severe. Most adult Greenland sharks are, as a result, functionally blind. In some surveyed populations, the great majority of individuals had them, one hanging from each eye. And here is the part that turns it from grim to genuinely strange. The shark does not appear to care. Blindness is essentially no handicap down there. It lives in permanent darkness. Its eyes were never doing much. It hunts by smell and by feel and by electroreception. So a parasite that would destroy any surface predator is, for this animal, a minor tenant. There's even a long-standing suggestion, never confirmed, that the parasite might be bioluminescent and could act as a lure, drawing curious prey toward the shark's mouth. Most researchers are skeptical. But the fact that it's even a plausible-sounding idea tells you how upside down the rules are down there. A blinding parasite might be a fishing rod. The flesh is the next thing, and it's a direct consequence of physics we need for the ending, so let's do it properly. Greenland shark meat is toxic. Eat it fresh and you'll get seriously ill, with symptoms that look a great deal like severe drunkenness, staggering, slurring, vomiting, and in bad cases, convulsions. Sled dogs fed fresh Greenland shark have been recorded unable to stand. In Iceland, there's a word for it, and it means shark sick. The reason is that the shark's tissues are loaded with two compounds, urea and something called trimethylamine N-oxide, which everyone shortens to TMAO. In a mammal, high doses of TMAO get broken down into trimethylamine, which is a neurotoxin and also happens to smell strongly of rotting fish. And why is the shark full of it? Two reasons, and both matter. The first is osmotic. Sharks manage the salt balance between their bodies and seawater by retaining urea in their tissues, which is elegant but chemically hostile, because high urea concentrations destabilize proteins and stop enzymes folding correctly. TMAO is the counterweight. It's a protein stabilizer, and it cancels out the damage the urea would otherwise do. Sharks carry both, balanced against each other. The second reason is pressure, and this is the one that becomes the key to the whole ending. TMAO also protects proteins against being deformed by hydrostatic pressure. Under enough pressure, protein molecules get squeezed out of the precise three-dimensional shapes they need in order to work, and enzymes stop functioning. TMAO braces them. It holds the shapes together. And when biologists went and measured TMAO levels in deep-sea fish across a range of depths, they found something remarkably clean. The deeper the animal lives, the more TMAO it carries. It scales with depth, almost like a gauge. It is functionally antifreeze for pressure. Hold that. We're going to need it in about 15 minutes. Icelanders, meanwhile, worked out centuries ago that if you bury the meat, let it ferment for weeks, then hang it up to dry for months, the toxic compounds break down and it becomes edible. The result is carl, and it is famous for being one of the most challenging foods on Earth, with a smell of ammonia strong enough to make your eyes water. And I find something quietly moving in that, actually, a community with essentially nothing else to eat looked at a poisonous animal and spent generations working out a process to make it safe, because that was what was available. And there's one more thing about where this animal lives that quietly upends the picture most people have of it. Because Greenland shark makes you think Arctic, ice, cold surface water, polar bears. And that is where they were first described and where most encounters happen. But they're not restricted to the Arctic at all. They've been recorded far south, in deep water off the coast of Canada and in the North Atlantic Basin, and in 2022, a Greenland shark, or an extremely close relative, was documented in deep water off Belize in the Western Caribbean, which is about as far from an ice floe as you can get. The reason is simple once you say it out loud, and it's a good reminder of how the ocean actually works. The Greenland shark isn't following the Arctic, it's following the temperature. And the temperature it wants, that steady 1 to 4 degrees, exists at the surface near the poles and exists at depth everywhere else on the planet. So an animal that appears to be a polar specialist is really a cold water specialist, and cold water is not a place on a map, it's a depth. Near Greenland, it can find its conditions a few hundred meters down. Near Belize, it has to go to 2,000. Same animal, same water, same darkness, different latitude. Which means the range of these things is potentially far larger than anybody assumed, and that the deep ocean is, in a sense, one connected cold room wrapping the entire globe. The tropics are only tropical at the top. Underneath every warm sea on Earth, the same cold black is waiting, and things that belong to it can walk right underneath the equator without ever leaving home. But none of that is the headline. The headline came in 2016, and it changed how we think about vertebrate life. The problem researchers had always faced was that you cannot age a Greenland shark the usual way. With most fish, you take a bony structure, an otolith or a vertebra, and you count growth rings like tree rings. Greenland sharks have cartilage skeletons with almost no mineralization, so there are no rings to count. The animals were known to grow extraordinarily slowly, on the order of a centimeter or less per year, which implied a long life, but nobody could put a number on it. Then a team led by Julius Nielsen tried something new. They used the eye lens. The lens of a vertebrate eye is formed in layers, and the proteins right at the very center of the lens are laid down before birth and are never replaced. They are, chemically, as old as the animal. So if you can extract the nucleus of the lens and radiocarbon date the proteins in it, you're dating the moment that individual was born. And they had an unexpected advantage, which is grim but useful. Nuclear weapons testing in the 1950s and early 1960s pumped a pulse of carbon-14 into the atmosphere and the oceans, and that pulse shows up as a sharp marker in tissue formed after it. So any shark whose lens carried the bomb signature was born after the mid-1950s, and any shark whose lens didn't was born before it. That gave them a hard calibration point. They analyzed 28 female Greenland sharks, and the results published in Science in 2016 gave an estimated lifespan range of roughly 272 to 512 years, with a most likely central estimate of around 392 years for the largest animal in the study. I want to stop and let that land because the number goes by too quickly. 392 years. That is the longest lifespan ever measured for a vertebrate animal. Not the longest for a fish, the longest for anything with a backbone by an enormous margin. The next closest, the bowhead whale, comes in around 200 years, and that already seemed absurd. Now take the central estimate seriously for a second and do the arithmetic on what it means, because this is the part that gets me. A Greenland shark caught alive today, if it were that old, would have been born in the 1630s. That animal was a pup, while the 30 Years' War was still being fought in Europe. It was already swimming when Isaac Newton was born. It was well into adulthood when the American colonies were founded, and it was old when the Declaration of Independence was signed. It was alive through the entire Industrial Revolution. It was alive when the first steam locomotive ran, and when the telephone was invented, and when the first aircraft left the ground, and through 2 world wars, and through the moon landing, and through the invention of the internet, and it is right now still down there in the dark, moving at 1 kilometer an hour, doing exactly what it was doing in 1650. And it has no idea any of it happened. Not one event in 4 centuries of human history registered down there in any way. The water is the same temperature. The darkness is the same darkness. Nothing about its environment has changed enough for it to notice. And there's a detail attached to this that I think is the single most poignant fact in marine biology. Based on the same research, Greenland sharks appear not to reach sexual maturity until they're around 150 years old, and the females are estimated to be around 4 meters long at that point. 150 years to become an adult, which means that every single sexually mature Greenland shark in the ocean right now, every animal currently capable of producing the next generation, was born before the invention of the automobile. There are Greenland sharks alive today, adolescents by their own standards, that are older than the country you're watching this from and have not yet had their first pup. And that's why time is the third engine, and why it's the one that actually frightens me. Not because it's ghoulish, but because of what it means for the animal's future in an ocean we're now industrially fishing. A species that takes 150 years to reproduce cannot recover from anything. If you remove a generation, you're not waiting a decade for it to come back. You're waiting longer than the country that removed it has existed. Greenland sharks are caught as bycatch in Arctic trawl fisheries, in real numbers, and there is no version of that which the population can absorb quickly, because quickly, for this animal, is measured in centuries. So we've descended through the twilight, through the glowing zone, through the ambush predators and the living fossils, and down into the midnight zone where an animal born in the 1600s is still going. Everything we've found has been stranger than the last, and the pattern has held perfectly. Deeper equals weirder, every time. Which raises the question I titled this whole thing after, and it's the one I want to finish on. Does it ever stop? And here's the answer, and it surprised me when I first went looking for it, and I think it's the best fact in this entire video. Yes, it stops. And it stops in a very specific place, for a very specific and slightly beautiful reason. If you look at the depth records for sharks, you find plenty of species operating down past 2,000 meters. The Portuguese dogfish, a small, dark, deep-water shark, holds one of the reliable deep records, with confirmed captures down around 3,700 meters. Cookie cutters have been recorded in that range too. There are scattered claims of sharks around 4,000 meters and a small number of contested reports slightly beyond. And then, nothing. Below roughly 4,000 meters, sharks essentially cease to exist, not become rare. Cease, go and look at the abyssal plains, that enormous flat expanse of seafloor that covers more of this planet's surface than every continent combined. And you will find sea cucumbers and brittle stars and amphipods in vast numbers, and rattail fish and cusk eels and snailfish going down into the trenches past 8,000 meters. You will find life everywhere. You will not find sharks. More than half of the ocean floor lies below 4,000 meters, which means that roughly half of the largest habitat on Earth, the biggest continuous living space on this planet, contains no sharks at all. An animal that survived every mass extinction, that colonized every ocean, that adapted to freshwater rivers and Arctic ice and coral reefs and open ocean and the crushing dark of the midnight zone, hits an invisible ceiling in the abyss and simply stops. Why? And the answer, or the best current answer, takes us right back to the thing I planted at the very start. And I told you we'd come back for it. The liver. Remember, sharks have no swim bladder. They stay off the bottom using an enormous liver packed with squalene oil, which is lighter than seawater and provides permanent, uncrushable lift. That was the great advantage. That's why sharks could go deep at all while bony fish with gas bladders struggled. But run the numbers as you descend and the advantage erodes, and then it turns into a trap. Seawater gets denser as you go deeper because pressure compresses it slightly. Oil compresses too, but the relationship isn't identical, and the density difference between the shark's liver oil and the surrounding water changes with depth. To generate a given amount of lift, a deeper shark needs proportionally more oil. And so what you see as you go down the shark family tree is livers getting bigger and bigger relative to body size. Shallow sharks might have a liver at 5 or 10% of body mass. Deep-sea sharks are running 20, 25, in some cases up to 30%. A quarter of the animal is float, and that is enormously expensive. Squalene is a lipid, and lipids are energy. Every gram of oil in that liver represents calories the animal ate and then locked up permanently in flotation instead of using for anything else. In an environment where food arrives as a thin drizzle of scraps from a mile above, spending a quarter of your entire body mass on a component that does nothing but stop you sinking is a brutal overhead. Push deeper and the overhead keeps rising. The liver has to keep growing to keep providing lift. And at some point, the curve crosses a line, and the amount of oil required to stay neutrally buoyant costs more energy to build and maintain than the animal can possibly recover from the food available at that depth. The system stops closing. The books don't balance. That's the ceiling. Sharks don't stop at 4,000 meters because the pressure crushes them. And they don't stop because the cold kills them. And they don't stop because there's nothing to eat. They stop because their solution to floating, the very innovation that let them go deep in the first place, becomes too expensive to afford. There are almost certainly other factors stacked on top. Cartilage skeletons may have their own limits. The chemistry of protein stability under pressure, the Tmao story, has its own hard ceiling, with the best current models putting an absolute limit for fish somewhere around 8,000 meters or so, which is roughly where the deepest snailfish are found, and roughly where fish of any kind stop. Reproductive strategy plays a role too, since sharks produce very few, very large, very slow developing young, and that's a difficult strategy to run where energy is scarcest. But the buoyancy economics is the cleanest and most cited explanation, and it has a symmetry that I find hard to look away from. The adaptation that made sharks masters of the deep is the same adaptation that draws the line they can't cross. Their great advantage and their hard limit are the same organ. They can go down exactly as far as their liver can afford to carry them, and not 1 meter further. And so, the honest answer to the question I asked at the start: do sharks get creepier the deeper you go? Yes, and it's not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of the light budget, and the food budget, and the time budget, and you can trace every single strange feature back to one of those three. And does it ever stop? It does. It stops at around 4,000 meters, which sounds like an ending. Except that when you look at what the number actually represents, it isn't a wall the ocean built. It's a wall the sharks brought with them. Everything below that line belongs to something else. And what's down there is a whole separate world of animals that solved buoyancy differently, that don't need to float at all, that gave up on staying off the bottom the way the sharks never could. That's a different video, and I'll make it. But I want to leave you with one last thing, because it's the piece of this story that I didn't expect to find, and it changed how I feel about the whole subject. That liver. The one full of squalane. The one that let these animals colonize the dark and then quietly drew the line they couldn't cross. We harvest it. Squalane from deep-sea shark livers has been used for decades in cosmetics, in moisturizers and skin creams, because it's an excellent emollient, and in health supplements, and as an adjuvant ingredient in some vaccine formulations. The best sources, commercially, are the deep water sharks, precisely because they have the biggest livers relative to their bodies, which is precisely because they live deepest. The animals with the most oil are the ones that needed the most oil. So the deepest living sharks on the planet are the most valuable ones to catch. And these are animals that grow slowly, mature late, and produce a handful of pups after gestations measured in years, sometimes many years. Deep-sea shark populations, once fished down, take decades to recover, and some of them, on current evidence, may not recover at all on any timescale that means anything to us. There's been real progress. Many cosmetics companies have moved to plant-derived squalane from olives and sugarcane, which works essentially as well. But deep-sea shark fisheries still operate, and bycatch from deep trawling still kills these animals in numbers nobody is accurately counting, in a part of the ocean where nobody is watching. And that's the shape of the whole thing, and it's the same shape I keep running into every time I look closely at the deep ocean. These animals are not monsters. Every single feature that makes them look wrong to us, the gaping jaws, the loose bodies, the missing pigment, the blind eyes, the slingshot mouths, the glowing bellies, the centuries-long lifespans, is a correct answer to a problem so far outside our experience that our instincts read the solution as horror. The frilled shark isn't a nightmare. It's a lobster pot that learned to wait 3.5 years for its young. The goblin shark isn't a demon, it's an antenna with a mouth attached. The Greenland shark isn't a ghost, it's what happens when you turn a body's clock down so low that 400 years passes like a season. And they've been getting on with it, uninterrupted, in the largest habitat on Earth since before there were trees. The only thing in 450 million years that has ever meaningfully threatened them is us, and we've managed it in about 60, from the surface, mostly by accident, in pursuit of an oil we could get from olives. If that lands with you the way it landed with me, then the next thing to watch is the video I'll put right here, because it goes to the place the sharks couldn't reach, down past that 4,000-meter line into the abyss and the trenches, and it looks at the animals that live where no shark has ever been. And I'll tell you now, they didn't get there by being tougher. They got there by giving up more.